It's 2:35. First, I'd like to see if there are any public comment. Seeing that, we'll move on to the approval of minutes. We do have a quorum today, so we'll be looking to approve two sets of minutes, one from October 27, 2016, and from our last meeting of January 26, 2017. So if you could please take a look at those and entertain a motion.
Can we do a separate, because
Yes.
some people are,
Mhm.
so I move to accept the minutes for October 27, 2016.
Do you have a second on that?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so the October 27th minutes are approved. Is there a motion on that?
I call the motion to accept the minutes for February 23rd, 2017. No,
No, for
I'm
January.
sorry,
26th.
January, I'm sorry, forgive me.
Any second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Any opposed?
Thanks, Todd.
Minutes for January 22nd, or January 26th are
Sixth, yeah.
approved. We could entertain a motion for February 23rd minutes, but we'll wait. I'm going to move fairly quickly because I know there's a couple individuals who have other commitments and they need to leave early. First, for a budget update, we did talk about the governor's proposed budget that was released on January 10th at our last meeting, and most of you were here, but I included it at the end of our packet, highlights from the governor's proposed budget, and I'll be happy to review those with anyone at a separate time, but I just wanted to make sure that everyone had the highlights from the proposed budget. We are in the process of developing our budget here at PCC, and we're monitoring what's happening at the state level very closely as far as any changes or adjustments to the state budget. The good news still is, or the great news, is that the U building is in funding for the U building replacement project is included in the proposed budget. So that's a $63 million project, and if that is signed into law, we have a preliminary timeline as the new building being completed within about a 5-year period. So we're very excited about that. It's still proposed, but we do anticipate that it will be signed into the final law by the governor at the end of June. The fiscal team has put together a 5-year projection, and that's included in the 4th page of the packet, and it's the color worksheet that looks like this for everyone's information. It includes yellow and green highlights. But I really just wanted to share this projection because we're monitoring the revenues at the state level and that are coming in, the anticipated revenues coming into PCC, and also our expenditures very closely. So the budget that was signed into, approved by the Board of Trustees is the first column, and you'll see the bottom line in green, we had a deficit of $4.8 million. So based on our current projection, we're projecting an improvement in that, where now we're projecting a deficit of $2.4 million. So we're actually projecting that we're cutting the deficit in half, from $4.8 million to $2.4 million. And the real drivers behind the improvement in our fiscal projection is on the revenue side, we're projecting more revenue from non-resident students, so about $1 million more in revenue there. However, we are seeing a shortfall in the revenue. The Chancellor's Office includes in their budget something that's called a deficit shortfall or deficit factor, and that actually went from $900,000 to $1.8 million. So that almost is a wash between the increase in the non-resident student tuition. But similar to last year and the last couple of years, it's common for the Chancellor's Office to increase that number, and then depending on revenue, how revenues are coming in at the state level, that number could go down. But we're also seeing,
Just a quick question to clarify that. So are those FTS we're offering that are not funded by the state? Is that what you're saying? That's
the
where that?
non-resident,
No, the revenue shortfall.
the revenue shortfall, what that is, at the Chancellor's Office, they'll put together the total budget for all the community colleges. And that's under the assumption that a certain revenue number is hit at the state level. So during mid-year, they're cautious, because California currently, we're approaching 8 years of economic recovery, and the average length of an economic recovery is 5 years. So the governor and the Department of Finance, they're very cautious about the economy, and they're actually predicting a slight downturn in the revenues. And if there is a downturn in the revenue, that doesn't, what they'll do, they'll cut the budget for community colleges. So what this is, it's an estimate from the Chancellor's Office that takes that into account. So they're saying, well, if the revenues go down, we're gonna discount what's provided to every community college, all 113 community colleges. They take a short haircut in the funding
During that fiscal year? At the
during
end
the
of the
fiscal year.
Okay.
But if revenues are strong, that deficit factor will disappear,
Okay.
and we'll get the whole number.
Okay.
But right now, what's coming out of the Chancellor's Office is the $1.8 million shortfall. So that's what we're including in our projection.
Okay. All right, thanks.
But I watch that very closely, and I think it's probably very likely that that will be lowered, and we'll have a better outcome. But right now, I want to be relying on the most current information from the Chancellor's
Okay.
Office.
All right, thanks.
Sure, absolutely. And then when we look at the expenses, you'll see some changes in the different expense lines, but you'll see the biggest change in healthcare benefits. So we're actually seeing a savings based on, from the budget, we were budgeting $17.5 million. Now we're projecting $15.2 million. So savings of about $2.3 million. And that's not a result of reducing the health benefits or anything of that nature. We renegotiated one of the contracts. We actually have better health benefits at a lower cost. So we did experience a savings in that area. But I also wanted to share this projection with you because it includes the outlook for the years going out. So for 2017-18, all the way through 2020-21. And the biggest issue with the out years, first I'll ask you to look at the bottom line. 2017-18, right now, projecting almost a $4 million deficit. But as you go to 2020-21, you see that number grow to close to $10 million. And the biggest drivers causing that deficit increase are the PERS STRS contribution and escalation of healthcare costs. So I just wanted to share this so this body can consider potential increases. But the PERS STRS, the PERS increase, it was released earlier this month that the required contribution is going to max out at 28%. So that means someone earning $100,000, our district has to contribute $28,000 every year for the PERS contribution. But that's being gradually phased in. So at the top box, you can see the PERS contribution. 17-18 will be 15.8%, and when it goes to 18-19, 18.7%, 21.6%. So it's being phased in 1 to 2% increase each year. The STRS increase, currently it's going to max at 19.1% in the year 2021, but based on what's happened at PERS, I anticipate that will likely increase as well. And the reason why the PERS increase went up is because PERS, their investment portfolio, hasn't been earning what they've earned in the past. So they've actually downgraded their earnings projection from 7%, or from 7.5% to 7%. And because of that, they're requiring all participating agencies to contribute more to offset the shortfall in their earnings. But it's, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
But it's very important to know that this isn't a PCC problem.
Yeah.
This is a statewide problem. So it's not something that, you know, Pasadena City College alone is experiencing this. Every community college, every K-12, the CSUs, the UCs, city government agency, every state agency that participates in PERS STIRS is experiencing the same situation. So for community college system, the increase is about $400 million over the period of the phase-in. So it's something that's going to need, you know, statewide attention and a solution. So it's important for us to plan for it, but something's going to have to happen at the state level as far as providing additional revenues or additional source of inflow to help cover that. But for planning purposes right now, there's not a solution, so we need to include it in our projection. Healthcare, the healthcare cost, we're projecting a growth each year of 8% in this projection. So 8% is really a conservative increase. You know, I've seen increases anywhere in the double digits. So if we can do 8%, we're actually doing well. But it's something that for right now, for planning purposes, that's our best estimate of what that would be. I saw a couple hands go up, I'll be happy to answer.
I had a question about the salaries, your assumption's 0.
My assumption is 0.
There,
And that's for this projection, just because there's been no resolution with negotiations or anything.
Mhm.
So, you know, as soon as negotiations are resolved, then I didn't want to put in 10% here and give false expectations.
yes.
Or 1%, and, you know, as soon as negotiations are complete, then we'll
Well,
make the adjustments there.
I
But what-
noticed that there are increases and changes, is that the benefits? So in the line salary and benefits?
But what's good about this projection that we've developed is, you know, going through negotiations, if we come up with what's the impact of 1%, we could put 1% in, 2%,
Right.
change the percents each year, and we can see what the impact is to our bottom line. Because, you know, we can't give what we don't have.
Well, so my question was, so there are increases in the salary and benefits line. Is that benefits, or are you assuming that there's some hiring going on? or
The,
what's-
the increases from 16-17 to 17-18,
Right, and then
we know that
18.
we know we're gonna be hiring 25 new faculty.
Uh-huh.
So we know there's a change in that.
So they're in here.
They're in here.
Okay.
And because of that, there's an offsetting decrease in adjunct.
Okay.
So we have assumptions in that. So that's really the changes in the salary. And then if you look from 17-18 through the out years, there's no change. So there's no, included in this projection, there's no change in management positions, no change in classified. Other than the 25 new faculty positions, there's no change.
Yeah, right, no retirees, it's just
No
flat.
retirement.
Okay,
We
okay,
just kept it flat line.
okay.
So really, the biggest change is being driven by PERS, STIRS, and the health benefits. We do have a general increase of 1%, and those are things like supplies and materials and operating expenses.
Oh, you increased those, but not salaries, huh?
We did it.
Okay,
Yeah. But really,
got it.
when you look at the salaries and benefits towards the bottom of the page as a percent of revenue, you can see that the budget for 16-17 were 89.7%. This projection shows us this year will end somewhere around 88%. And then as you're going out to the out years, you're going out to 2021, salaries and benefits is almost 93%. And that's not because salaries are going up, it's just because the environment we're living in, the PERS STIRS contribution that the district is required to pay is increasing.
Okay, so it sounds to me that there's gonna be a knockout punch. What can we do about it? I mean, you know,
That's-
it's like you're saying you're gonna take it. You're gonna take the 24% and live with it.
Oh, we
What
have,
what can be done about that?
it's the law, we have to, but what we can do as a college, we can plan for it, we can strategize. There has to be relief coming in, otherwise, you know, it'll be a downward spiral for the whole system. But what we can do to strategize is look at opportunities. So one opportunity is, you know, as we're seeing this year, we have an increase in non-resident tuition. If we can grow our non-resident tuition, Another is health benefits. Health benefits in this projection are growing at 8% a year. If we can renegotiate those contracts to a lower increase or keep them closer to a flat line, it's going to provide more resources to us. Other things that we can consider as a college are the average class size, because as the number of students that we serve in each class, if that goes up by 2 on average, that's about a $5 million pickup. So, those are opportunities. And there's one thing, it's the next item on our agenda that I wanted to talk about. It's our costs related to our other post-employee retirement benefits, the OPEB benefits. And if there's no questions on this, I'll transition into that, because I think we can save about $1 million a year if we make a change in the way we handle and account for our OPEB liability.
Before we do that, doesn't the state, even in this year's budget, didn't they give specific money to help with the STRS and
What they
PERS?
did, they gave $23.6 million. For Pasadena City College, that equates to about $400,000. If you look at this projection, the increase in PERS is $500,000. The increase in STRS is $1.2 million. So just between those two line items, we have an increase in expense of, it's called $1.6 million, and we're getting $400,000 more of money coming in.
Yeah.
So you're right, they did provide something,
Okay.
but it's not enough to cover even the increase that we're experiencing next year.
Well, are you expecting that they're going to provide, I get it that it's not anywhere close to the increase, but that they're going to continue doing that, or they're going to have a plan for that?
I think they have to. I think
Yeah,
they
okay.
have to. That's my speculation. But, otherwise, if you're looking at our deficit, it's not sustainable.
Right.
And we're not the only ones. This isn't just PCC, it's every community college.
So but your projection is that there's no money, that's not you're not assuming they're going to give any money for those things at this point?
In this,
Right.
I'm not including
Right.
anything
Right.
because I don't want to give a false hope.
Right.
But based on this, you'll see that something has to give.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, we do have opportunities to make improvements to our bottom line here, but whatever we do, it will be hard to solve, this deficit problem.
Okay.
If we were to increase our average class size too, that's about $5 million, so that helps. If we renegotiate our health benefits, or we save, instead of 8% annual increases, it's going up 4%. With those types of changes, we're very close. But still, I think something's got to give at the state level. And if we make those adjustments and something gives at the state level, that means there's more on the table for us, right? More ways that we can use those resources, either hiring new or if we're working at increases, salary increases.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. So if there's no other questions, I'll talk about the OPEB. So what the other post-employment retirement benefits are, I'm sure everyone in this room is familiar with them, but if an employee puts in 14 years of service and they retire at 55 years or over, the district will pay their health benefits until they reach the age of 65. And at the age of 65, the district pays them $1,440 per year. And how that's been accounted for in the past is we just pay, it's called pay-as-you-go. So whatever the cost of providing those medical benefits, we just paid it. But there's new accounting standards, not new, fairly new, that require us to calculate what the liability is. So if I'm working today, in theory, part of my service this year is creating a liability for the district, because if I put in my 14 years, this year is part of that. So we should be recognizing an expense as we go and creating a liability. We hire an actuarial company to do a study. And the last study performed by the actuarial company calculated the liability to be $31.5 million. So if we do not have an irrevocable trust, any money set aside does not count toward that liability, because the accounting standards tell us that if you don't have an irrevocable trust, even if you have the full $31 million set aside, you could use those funds for other purposes. What that does, it requires us to pay what's called ARC, Annual Required Contribution. What the actuarial company calculated for us is an ARC of $4 million a year. That means we would have to pay $4 million out of our general fund resources to cover that liability. If we set up currently, we have about $15 million set aside in a special fund for the OPEB liability. And that's required for, we did this in the past for accreditation purposes. So $15 million, but if we don't have an irrevocable trust, that money is sitting with the county earning very minimal interest. And if you look at the page behind the projection, you'll see the earnings that we've received over the last 3 years on a $15 million balance. So over the last 3 years, we've earned between 6 and 7% on $15 million, which ranged from $85,000 to $110,000.
You mean 0.6 to 0.7, not
Yeah,
6 to 7.
Yeah, 0.6 to
Yeah,
0.7,
okay.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
if I didn't say the point.
Okay.
So 0.6, so less than 1% on $15 million. So we've earned $85,000 to $110,000. If we have an irrevocable trust, we can invest those, not us ourselves, we'll hire a company to invest them for us in a safe investment. Currently, those investments are returning around 7%, but I just showed what the earnings would be ranging from 3 to 6%. So if we were to earn 6%, which is lower than I think we would actually be receiving right now, we would earn, if you look at the last column, $800,000 more than what we're currently earning on that. And what that means is, if we set up the irrevocable trust, the actuarial company will count the $15 million as part of our assets, and that will reduce our annual required payment, plus we're earning almost $1 million on the investment, so it's almost self-funded. We would have, the required contribution would be significantly reduced. So that's something that I believe very, very strongly that we should go in the direction of. I think it's going to help the district's financial stability and health, and to set up an irrevocable trust. And what I propose is that each of you share this with your different groups, and I'll be happy to come and present this at any group meeting, and be happy to share more details how irrevocable trusts work. But what I would like this group to do after doing that is to come back and one way or another, if we can vote on it, if we want to move forward with setting up an irrevocable trust, then the recommendation would go to College Council, be presented there. If College Council supports it, it would go to the college president as a recommendation. Included in this packet also is documentation from our auditors. That'll be the next page. And that'll be the next page. It's a 30-page document. It's printed on both pages. But its document shows what other colleges are doing. And most community colleges in our area, large or small, have irrevocable trusts already set up. And it's because and there's articles explaining why to do it and why, the benefits from doing it, reducing the liability, higher earnings. But I included that as a handout for you to go through. And if you have any, I know you're just seeing it now for the first time, but you go through it, and next time if you have questions, or anytime, I'll be happy to discuss any questions you may have. Yes.
So just two questions. Number one, the 15 million, is that the money in the Fund 64?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. And then you said if it was earning about 800,000, it would almost be self-funding, but I thought you said right now we have to put 4 million in a year.
Right now,
so-
we have to put $4 million in, but if we set up the irrevocable trust, that $4 million is probably going to be cut in half approximately, because the actuarial company, they can't take into account the $15 million. They say our total liability is $31.5 million. If we had $31.5 million in an irrevocable trust, we wouldn't have to contribute anything like that.
Right.
If we had close to that, the earnings from it would equal, what the required contribution is. But if they can count this $15 million, which the irrevocable trust would allow, it reduces the ARC significant.
To about 2 million, and this is bringing in maybe, well, almost 1 million, so you'd still be maybe 1 million, about half of it now.
It'd still be, yeah, it would cut it down to about 25% of what the requirement is now.
So is this 4 million right now, is it in the budget, the current budget we
It's not
have?
in the budget, no. And it's something that, you know, needs to be, we need to make contributions to this fund. What we do, we transfer funds over from our general fund to Fund 64.
Now, that liability is basically, that 31.5 means if everybody that was 55, all at the same time, retired,
Right,
and you had to pay for their insurance
Right.
up to they were 65,
right.
which is 1 in a trillion chance, but
And what the pay-as-you-go, the pay-as-you-go expense is $1.3 million. So of the $4 million, 1.3 is the pay-as-you-go component. The difference between the 1.3 and the 4 million is, there's two pieces. One, it's an estimate of the liability from all of us, all of the current employment team who's working, you know, what the liability will be once they retire. And the third component is staff who've already retired, you know, what's the expense? So it's another opportunity
Yeah.
to help bridge the deficit. So I know that's kind of a lot to absorb. I went through it fairly quickly, but I did want to introduce, we talked about it last time, but there were a few people that we didn't have high attendance at our last meeting, so I wanted to bring it up again and share the report from our auditor that shares what other districts are doing, and some articles about irrevocable trusts. And it's something that I would like us to, you know, discuss more. And if we can have a recommendation one way or another from this group within the next couple meetings, so we can bring that to college council before the end of the fiscal year. I think that would be good. And once an irrevocable trust is set up, what we would do is establish a committee, and the committee would be responsible, one, for hiring a company to manage the trust for us, and also for recommending the investment mix, and also for determining how much we contribute to the irrevocable trust on a year-by-year basis. Yes.
Okay, so why would we not do that? And then what are the risks? I mean, because you say we're going to vote for it. It sounds like it's a no-brainer, so.
Well, I've spoken with Dr. Verdian, and, you know, we both feel strongly for this. He doesn't want to make the decision, I mean, he'll make the decision,
Right.
but he doesn't want to make it without sharing it with the college community. So this is something that I think we should have had a long time ago, because, you know, you look at the lost interest earnings, that's affecting our bottom line.
Correct.
So we want to make sure that everyone's part of the discussion, everyone has a chance to voice their opinion. The one thing that people might argue is that $15 million, that won't be available for raises, right? So from a negotiation standpoint, you may say, well, if you're taking that, that's my potential raise. But you have to think about it, this $15 million, it's not available for raises right now.
Right.
It's required funding set aside for a liability that's currently, it's an underfunded liability.
Okay.
So you really can't look at it as funds available for resources increases. But that's an argument that some may have. Yes?
Is there somewhere that we can see what is our current actual expenditure for post-employment benefits that people are collecting currently, and what the trend has been over the past few years? Because if it's basically not in the budget, but we're paying it out, like where can we find that information?
Yeah, I can provide a report for that. At the next meeting, I can bring that.
That was kind of my question, is there consistency from year to year in terms of how many people retire before they're 65?
We have all that, and we share that with our auditors every year. I can bring in the actuarial study, if you like, and you can see, you know, the assumptions that the actuary made in determining what our liability is. And there's a lot of information in the report. It's good information. If you prefer, I can have that emailed out, so you don't have to wait until the next
That'd be
meeting.
great. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll email that out.
Thank you.
Sure.
Richard, you have a question behind you.
Behind, sorry, in a gallery.
I didn't see.
If we get into a cash crunch year, wouldn't this have been money that we could borrow to put someplace else until the state paid us back? Which I understand, I believe we have done that in the past. I know it's been a long time since we were there, but I
It is-
may misremember, correct me if I'm wrong.
It is money that we could tap into if we needed to do a temporary borrowing, interfund borrowing. We do have other funds that we can borrow from, but this is one of those. And if we do set up an irrevocable trust, that option would not be available.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you said if we set up the irrevocable
It would
trust.
not be available, so we could not borrow.
But we could put part of it.
We could determine how much we contribute, or we could put part of it in. And once we determine that we want to go with an irrevocable trust, the committee that we set up to recommend who we hire to manage it will also determine how much of this we transfer in. You're right, we don't have to transfer the entire 15 million in, but the benefit of transferring a higher amount is it reduces our annual required contribution, our payment. But we could make the decision to initially transfer 5 million, 10 million, see how it works, and then, we could always change it. But again, I'll be happy to present or discuss this with any of our groups. Feel free to send me an email. And we can-
So once the money's in the irrevocable fund, obviously you cannot pull it out either for anything else.
Yeah,
What about the interest has to stay in there as well?
interest stays in there as
Okay.
well. Yeah. And again, that was a good point, that we don't have to transfer the full 15 million over, although I recommend we transfer a large amount over. But we don't have to do the entire amount.
So the word irrevocable is a big one, right? If for some reason the college were to go down the road where we stopped offering post-employment benefits, right, and then all the people that are getting them die, because eventually that happens, right? And we no longer offer it to incoming employees, is that money still irrevocable, or is there language somewhere that could be built into a trust that if we stopped offering that as a district, because not all do?
It's irrevocable, so
Okay,
we
so-
could take it out. So what we would need to do is this committee that we set up to oversee the irrevocable trust, they would closely monitor because we're still required to have an actuarial study performed, monitor that very closely. And when you look at the auditor's report, there's some districts that are overfunded. So that means they have more assets in their irrevocable trust than the liabilities are. So,
Is it possible to get this email with the names of the districts attached?
yeah, we copied this and cut up the names.
Oh,
Yeah, we'll email the report that shows the name.
So if their funding ratio is over 100, that means they're overfunded? Like, there's one on page, I guess it says page 2, and there's like 48 million in the actuarial asset. Oh, and then their unfunded is negative. So that looks like, is that will be one? Yeah. Okay. Well,
So we'll email out that report, so the pages are, complete. Does anyone have any other questions, or do you want to talk about that a little bit more?
unfunded.
There's some information. Okay, wow, so we went through that very quickly. Is everybody comfortable with the proposed budget? Would you like me to cover what was included in the proposed budget? If not, there's one last thing that we covered last time. It was institutional effectiveness goals, and that's included in the last page of your handout. It's a memo from myself to this committee dated January 26th, and last time I, and what we're required by the Chancellor's Office to do is develop goals, performance-related goals, both fiscal and in the classroom. So what's included in this document are proposed goals that are fiscal related. Some of them are pretty straightforward, like an audit, you have a clean audit and that you don't have any audit findings. You know, that would definitely be our goal. But then we also have the fund balance, which is the first line item. And here we're proposing that the one-year goal is that we have a 10% reserve and the long-term goal will be 18% fund balance. And then next is salaries and benefits. And we have the one-year goal at 88%. And the second, where it says 88% under the 6-year goal, I think that should be 92%. And that's just because the increasing PERS stirs. So as a result of PERS and stirs going up, it's not that our salaries are going up, but that's automatically going to be a bigger piece of our operating budget. So at least it's got to be 92%. If we provide raises, it would even be higher than that. But what I ask you to do is review these with each of your groups, and we'll come back next time and talk about them more. Or at least we can talk about different suggestions and make a recommendation to College Council on these. I know we shared this last time, but I know our attendance was pretty low, so I wanted to give more time for that discussion to take place. And with that, our next meetings are March 23rd and April 27th. And if there's no questions, we'll take a move for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for attending.